I could though. I'm hearing myself.
We are live in the air.
We are live. We finally made it. Golden Show.
Golden
Debate Show number 3.
Trace.
Ooh, all this type of buggery.
Cheers.
So what's going on? We're weekend warriors when it comes to basketball. We'll be playing again. I'll let you guys.
Hard in the paint.
Yeah, since we wanted to talk about it real quick before we get into some topics. As you know, we hunt the media. We hunt these vamps. We hunt for truth.
Straight
so we can
killers.
shout the golden truth
Hunters.
that is reality. EarlyMorningMob.com. Tone, say what up to the people.
Hey, my people. True Tone, hollering back. You know, just here with the guys, ready to go spit this knowledge.
We got Franklin here for the first time for the beginning of the Golden Debate Show.
Careful Fettuccini.
At the end
I'm in
of
the
the show.
building. I'm in the building. You know how we do. Titles on the court today, yo. Titles, break them down. Left and right.
Town.
Yes. Let's get it in. EarlyMorningMob.com, the Golden Debate Show.
Go.
Hello? Yeah, I think I fixed it.
We're good.
We're golden, baby.
The golden debate show. Yeah, the golden debate show. Golden show. Wow. Golden debate show. We're gonna talk about this all about the golden debate show. Yeah, the golden
So we'll start where we left off.
Yes. Yes, we.
Wow. Golden debate show.
And the way that this is all integrated is when you start to realize, and you watch Batman episode number 33, you're going to find out that Batman's grandfather
Liquid gold.
Yeah, we have old John Kerry. Right? Remember Bonesman number 1, Bonesman number 2. Take your pick. What an election that was, right? You know what I'm talking about? John Kerry, George Bush, you know? Skull and Bones 1 or 2, which do you want? And then Ra's al Ghul. This was a comic book character who always wanted to come up with the ultimate virus and just kill everything on planet Earth. But as you walk down your store aisles, your children are now being conditioned into this new fighting mode. And what it is a princess
So we're getting it in.
Program.
Golden Debate Show. This one, we're throwing a lot of crazy things because this is how we ended the last show. And then we got a lot more other topics to get into that are a little more reality-based. But I think this is important in the long run, just, you know, if you're going to keep an open mind.
You got your little, everybody getting their Hannah Montana princess programming. I mean,
Liquid gold.
Hannah Montana products and the Queen
Down there in one of those catacombs.
It's insane.
And there's other guys that they look like, I don't know. This don't make no sense to everybody.
Full before we ever made it around the corner. And that's all different Hannah Montana products, by the way. And so our poor children are getting corrupted into the concepts that are being bombarded into them, especially by Walt Disney. Now, Cars really was a film that taught children subservience to the court and subservience to the higher orders, and actually was one of the first. Back in the early chemtrail studies, I've been watching chemtrails since '96. We were always looking for them in movies. When were they going to show up?
So it might be the Beats audience.
To be rare.
Liquid gold.
Yes.
We used to hunt chemtrails and try to figure it out.
And now, obviously, you ain't going to hunt them motherfuckers. Those motherfuckers is everywhere, as you can see. Chemtrails are very rampant.
Yes. Just the other day, me and Carl was taking a ride. It was right before we heard it was going to snow, and what do we see in the sky? Mad players.
Chemtrails.
Science.
Yes.
Okay. Shut up.
Where's the periodic table?
Science.
So, as you all know, we have a new Popa in town.
You don't send out an email.
They call me Lord Popa.
My main man, Reverend Manning, when he started wilding out about the
news
Pope.
people are talking about the Pope
So we got a
is
little
resigning, and they don't even know. That's wrong.
Because I feel that this is very important, and we'll tie all
And
this
if it was truly about his health, he would have discussed it with the cardinals. It would have been something that all sat down and had a meeting and talked about it. You don't send out an email in the middle of the doggone night, and the cardinals waking up in Latin America, they're waking up in Africa, they're waking up in Armenia, they're waking up in New York City, and somebody's calling them and telling them the Pope just resigned. That ain't the way for a Pope to behave. That ain't the way for a man of God to behave. That ain't God.
It's not.
That ain't God.
It's them.
I think they need to call for. I think they need to call for an investigation.
As we all know, I get a lot of my jingles and my clips from the No Agenda show.
Holla at your boys.
the boys actually made this prediction, which is kind of crazy. I wish I could put a better quality clip.
Next, and this is where I think there's kind of,
as you can hear, he's going to call out the Jesuit. He made this prediction about 2 weeks before the Pope was made.
Surprise.
And you know, we're not going to
now, if you look at what
give
President
everybody
Obama
a little everything. So you got to do your research
which is
on
not
the
just him, it's
Jesuits
been a
are. You know what I'm
process
saying?
of
Then you can
several
make your own
presidents,
opinion.
Republican
But
and
we'll just throw it out there. The
We
Jesuits
are
are secret
very
order.
much moving towards a
And the Pope is
Marxist
part of the
/
secret order.
socialist system where it has to be fair.
I just don't feel that anybody, president or Pope, should be down with any type of secret orders. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. What has happened over the past
in America, you know, we kind of just go along with the stuff. But in France, they have like a different opinion on everything.
In the Vatican, where of course Pope Francis
think that,
was
it ain't
elected,
right
like
for this
all of the Catholic Church in Argentina. Cardinal Bergoglio has been called into question over his role during the years of the military junta. From 1976 to 1993, Argentina was a military dictatorship.
The money doesn't go to any organizations. It goes directly to him.
His don't make no sense to everybody.
So yes, he's the first Jesuit Pope. His Pope name will be Pope Francis. This is kind of crazy, you know.
From South America.
From South America.
The brown-skinned Pope.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, well, that's important. That has to be important to tie in because everybody has to be have a fair share.
Yo, this is
fitting
King
into
Midas,
this
and you're
new
listening
thing
to
that
the
we got
Golden
going.
Show.
This new society, the entire world.
Brown president, brown Popa.
Shout out to Popa Constantine.
Yes, sir.
For hitting them threes.
Shazam.
Last decade, we've spent hundreds of billions of dollars on what was supposed to be a temporary tax cut for the wealthiest 2% of Americans. Now we're scheduled to spend almost $1 trillion more. Today, the wealthiest Americans are paying taxes at one of the lowest rates.
Liquid gold. Science.
Why are you
Warren
doing
Buffett
that,
is paying a
Obama?
lower rate than a secretary.
Why is he doing that?
Meanwhile, over the last 30 years, the tax rates for middle-class
All
families
the bank
have
people
barely
on your
budged.
board.
That's not fair.
Yeah, man.
It doesn't make any
fair.
sense. Do we want to keep giving tax breaks to the wealthiest Americans? Folks like myself,
No.
Warren Buffett, or Bill
more.
Gates? People
Why
who
we
don't
paying
need
all
them and
this
never
money?
ask for them?
You good,
Or
man.
do we
Why don't
want
you
to
help
keep
the poor?
investing in the things that will grow our economy and keep us secure? Because we can't afford to do both.
Check it out.
Some people call this class
Basketball is from America. And the basketball says it's made from China. Come on!
It's just common
It's
sense.
King
Come on,
Midas
y'all.
We don't
certified.
envy success in
Golden.
We aspire to it.
Almost too delicious
We also believe that
to
anyone who
believe,
does
my
well for
friend.
We also
themselves
believe.
should do their fair share in return, so that more people have the opportunity to
So,
get ahead.
as we all know, taxes are a big joke to begin with, right?
Yep.
But does anybody really know what most of the taxes are spent upon? I mean, sure, they're supposed to be spent upon schools and roads, but are they?
Nah, $500,000 for a toilet, $400,000 for a hammer.
Yes.
You know, it's just anonymous numbers.
53 cents of every dollar.
That
Let's
goes
listen to this
into
clip.
Is going
See
to
what we think
military.
about
It's an
this one.
astonishing figure. There's an enormous amount of money being blown on war and killing and destruction. But
Well, break this down. Break this down a little bit. You know, how much money? Where's it going?
well, look, there's a $3 trillion 2011 budget proposal. It'll probably go a little higher, but they always do. But you know, so let's round it up. $3
Yes,
trillion
the biggest business in the world is
being
war.
proposed for the
You
next
need
year.
money to
And
blow
of
stuff
that,
up. You
that
need money
includes
to
a
fix stuff.
Direct
Costs money,
Pentagon
but it
budget
also
request
makes
of $717 billion at this point. That'll also rise, as it always does. There's a proposal for $158 billion. They call it contingency fund for the two wars, but that'll rise. Then you got $40 billion in black box intelligence funding that doesn't get written in the budget, but really
What is that?
They never tell us how much they spend on the CIA and the NSA and the DIA and all these different intelligence activities, which are all war-related. But a couple of years ago, there was a error in testimony in the Congress that leaked that the black budget on intelligence was $37 billion. But I suspect that it's probably closer to 50 or 60 billion, because if you think about it, the CIA is basically running the Predator operation in Pakistan, and that's got to be hugely expensive. So, you know, I suspect
in the billions,
probably much more than $40 billion I gave it. Then you got another almost $100 billion in non-Department of Defense military spending. And that includes things like the military portion of NASA, military spending by the State Department. Remember, they hire all those military contractors to guard their.
And yet we have so many poor people while they're spending hundreds and thousands and millions of billions of dollars.
Billions and billions.
That is largely military.
Help your people so the people can help you. Don't try to slave us.
Benefits for
we made you.
Damaged goods from all our wars. And finally, there's $400 billion in interest on the debt to pay for
$400 billion on debt.
And that's just the interest. So that all adds up to $1.6 trillion.
$1.6 trillion.
$1.6 trillion.
Sort of, like, how does that compare to
Good Lord, that's a lot of money. A lot of gold. Go to the debate show.
Go, Dan.
Oh, the recent healthcare bill was
Why have 1.7 trillion when you can have 1.7 billion?
1.6 trillion in 1 year.
$1.6 trillion. So we could have... yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Next time you hear that the government needs to cut funds for providing medical care to the children's laid-off workers, that supplemental unemployment funds are running out. Next time you hear that federal funds that are needed to fund extra teachers at your school are being cut, or that Social Security benefits need to be cut back, or retirement age needs to be increased to 70. Next time you hear your local post office has to be shut down for lack of funds. Next time you hear that Medicare benefits need to be reduced, think about that 53% of your tax payment that's going to finance the most enormous war machine the world has ever known. And that's the truth.
So, that's a big scam mockery right there to begin with, is the tax rate, you know what I'm saying?
Vampirism.
Exactly. So, they always want to play hardball, and they're always going to be...
Situation that we will obey the Constitution, that the Fifth Amendment does apply to all Americans, and there aren't exceptions. But thank you very much for the forbearance, and I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
Senator from Illinois. There will be order.
There will be order! No! Silence! Silence!
Expressions of approval or disapproval are not permitted in the Senate.
Not approval.
I do not oblige.
We do not approve of the message.
This is not approved.
Down in one of those catacombs.
How can it be? We thought America ought to know.
Our report ignited a fury. Members of Congress today called for action, and Olympic Committee members ducked for cover.
Made in America. It's about American jobs, American workers, America's future.
America's future.
Only on World News with Diane Sawyer on ABC.
In the catacombs, dude.
There he goes! Catacombs. And this other guy.
Dribble the basketball one more time.
I don't know. This don't make no sense.
Yes, it's all a big game, right?
Cross your ass over.
So we'll get into the song of the day because I feel like it's important. This song, and it's important to play right now. And then we'll hit you on the other side with some more hunting. See you on the other side. OnlyMoneyMouth.com, the Golden Debate Show.
Golden information.
To identify with no nation.
Liquid gold.
Me, Hillary Clinton.
It's almost too delicious to believe, my friend.
And their God, G-O-D, spells gold, oil, and drugs.
1, 2, alright. Yeah. That's right. Live from the belly, they got me behind the fence. I run shit from the inside. The fucking president of the infamous gang. The wick of my stank. I got that icky, cotton picky shit that had you days. I'm a watch you count shit.
Shyster show up.
Man, you say incarnation of the pharaoh with an OE. The barrel full of hot lead. Shoot a pot head.
Jobs, jobs, and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
Permanent smiley face. Any nigga stunning off. Now you out of place. I beat a lot of cases, had to take a L. I see you in the hot set. Yep, hold it down. Money is worthless. Real power is people. Real strength is in the street where everybody's equal. Fuck jury. Fuck rims. Let's spend on our protection. Get armor. Get cameras.
Hello, everybody.
Get with it, little nigga. This man shit.
To the gate, to the gate, to the climate gate.
Real strength is in the street where everybody's locked from behind the wall. sitting staring at the wall. I'm fit to pop out this bitch like a newborn.
Jobs, jobs, and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
It's even when you take it, baby, some tell me the truth. Live it, then you see it. Breathe it, then you bid. I tell you a little secret, it's a secret. Government, they worship an owl. They practice witchcraft to harness their power. Pedophiles rape little kids for energy. It's satanic ritual. WTC.
Hello, everybody.
They lit the Pentagon on fire. That's lighting the pentagram on fire. All these bodies for what? So you can scare everybody in the one world, huh? All my crimes is on deck. So if you ain't come for a war, then run.
All my crimes! Go to the debate show.
Jobs,
jobs, baby, go to the show.
Let's vote for jobs.
Let's spend on that. Get armor, get cameras, get with it, little nigga. This man shit. Real power is people. Real strength is in the
down there's one of those catacombs.
Real power.
There's other guys, what they look like, I don't know.
Hello, everybody.
No sense, everybody.
Hello.
To the gate, to the gate, to the climate gate.
This brings us right here to the next clip.
In Texas was made roughly 20 times more likely because of man-made climate change, specifically meaning warming that comes from greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide. The study, requested by NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, looked at 50 years of weather data in Texas and concluded that man-made warming had to be a factor in the drought. The head of NOAA's climate office is Tom Carr.
What we're seeing not only in Texas but in other phenomena in other parts of the world where we can't explain these events by natural variability alone. They're just too rare, too uncommon.
Aside from the Texas drought, NOAA called the entire year of 2011 the year of extreme weather events. Starting
get that health, that mental, that's that gold.
There were 7 tornado outbreaks in America last year that caused $1 billion in damages. There were increased hurricanes in the North Atlantic, unprecedented flooding in Australia, and widespread drought in East Africa.
Do you believe that the climate has to do with people, or
Typically,
you know, like,
La Nina
is it a direct correlation, or maybe it's just a crazy weather pattern?
Direct correlation was the warmest
too many
ever.
people.
And again, the government concluded that
too much chemicals in the sky, not people necessarily.
What's happening?
See, these motherfuckers always want to hit them with the heart.
Fluctuations between El Nino and La Nina events that lead to some of the extreme conditions.
There is a place
See,
in Alaska.
weather patterns and carbon patterns have been the same and have fluctuated throughout mankind before there were even people on the planet. I'm not sure that it's overpopulation.
Planet.
I just think that they like to throw that out.
Wyatt Noah made a
So
point of saying today that the climate change is identified as man-made. Why did they say that?
The world population.
Scott, going back 50 years, they know
well, I think it's Australia,
dryness
something like
conditions
that
are
works.
associated with Texas droughts. And when they put that in the computer, nothing explained the intensity and duration of the world last year in Texas until they factored in the added heat coming from climate change. You're going to see a lot of scientists criticizing this as a guess, but NOAA for the first time is arguing, Scott, that this is science.
Science! The science is end.
The major stock indices hit
So we'll listen to this clip new. Hunting deconstruct.
There's other guys, what they look like, I don't know.
Hello, everybody.
The answer presents itself to the gate, to the gate, to the climate gate. Markets by governments, central bankers, and
EarlyMotorMark.com.
Early
morning. This is the GRTV Backgrounder on Global Research TV. In the age of quantitative easing and overt government intervention in the economy, it's impossible to trust any of the economic statistics that we are being shown as indicators of the supposed health.
Don't trust none of these economic factors. They you know what I'm saying? Inflate and deflate these numbers to make it look real. You know, there's actually a website out there. It's called realstats.com. And church. Yeah, they're taking out of church, man. Preach to that, the golden scrolls.
Last year, when Ben Bernanke and the Federal Reserve
There's other guys, what they look like, I don't know. This don't make no sense to everybody.
Unemployment rate target.
Hello, everybody.
Jobs.
As the unemployment rate has never been within the mandate of the Federal Reserve. In fact, the privately owned central bank doesn't even possess a direct mechanism for influencing the number. The move was perfectly understandable, however, to those analysts who understand that unemployment figures are one of the most flagrantly manipulable government-issued statistics, subject to all sorts of arbitrary definitions in the meaning of unemployment itself.
Golden Debate Show.
One of the premier statisticians keeping track of the real unemployment rate in the U.S. is John Williams of ShadowStats.com. In 2009, he appeared on the Corbett Report to discuss how this...
I believe that's the website, actually. And they give you the real stats, the real numbers. The unfluctuated,
unemployed,
fair pyre touched.
Long to get a response. The average person knows whether...
Okay, so as interesting as the whole tax meme is, the next meme I'd like to get into is some of the food sensitivities.
One of the things with processed food that I found while doing this book is not only that it has an abundance of the things that Michael was talking about, salt, sugar, fat, it's also what it's lacking, which it turns out is naturally occurring nutrition.
Not just meat, but nutrition.
Vitamins and minerals and fiber and things like antioxidants. So you take something like cereal, you walk down the cereal aisle and you're bombarded with health messages. It's high in vitamin D, good source of calcium, fiber, antioxidants. You see these things all over the package. And one of the questions I asked myself when I was starting to work on this book was, why is it nearly impossible to find a box of cereal in the cereal aisle without added vitamins and minerals in the ingredient list? And it turns out because most cereal has very little inherent nutrition. This is in part because of processing. The processing of food is very intensive. It's very technical, and with cereal, it can be very damaging to naturally occurring nutrients, especially vitamins and oftentimes fiber. So what manufacturers do is they add back in vitamins. So essentially, you see all these wonderful claims on the package. Essentially. And you look at the panel, and you're getting 35%, 40% of your recommended daily allowance of vitamins, but they're essentially added in like a vitamin pill, which many people may be already taking in the morning.
What's that, the Golden Debate alarm?
To learn where some of these vitamins come from. I never really thought about it in much detail, as probably most people don't. But it turns out that these vitamins are not coming from the foods that contain them.
Yeah, man, your mind is the most important thing ever,
does not come from an orange.
It controls everything.
And vitamin A does not come from a carrot. It's very far from that. They come from things that really aren't actually foods.
It's quick and sleazy.
Vitamin D, for instance, was probably the most shocking. It comes from sheep grease. So actually, the grease that comes from sheep wool.
EarlyMorningMob.com. Tell them the show, Tone.
Container ships that go from Australia and New Zealand over to China, where
we're going to start getting a lot better for our people. This is an early show. Soon we'll get up to an hour, Tone. I'm telling you.
From China, inside these huge factories, very industrial processes. A lot of vitamins are actually chemical processes, and they're very technical and complex.
A lot of people, if they're with someone, they're looking at them right now. Wait a second. So China gets all these shipments of sheep wool, and they're pulling the sheep grease off of them to make vitamin D.
Twitting, Franklin?
This don't make no sense.
Sheep grease is actually very useful for a lot of things. It can be used to make moisturizer and lip balm. It can be used for industrial purposes, for lubricants.
You must stretch your mind as well.
Like that.
Golden Show.
One of its uses is to be converted through a number of chemical steps and chemical processes to vitamin D, which is added to our food.
So deconstruct a little bit, Tony, man. Like you said, water is very important, but so is nutrition. And this lady's just talking about this aspect. We already talked about the horse meat scandal and all that, and the mad cow disease. Our food is so fucking tainted, whether or not vampires are doing that or not. I mean, that's just nuts.
Used in food, but actually also have
as pure as it once was.
Hello, everybody.
With them. One of my
jobs, and jobs.
Yeah.
Let's vote for jobs.
I know about taking some fear spread, but come on, man. At least I know that I'm quite in.
And it's used
to win the solstice, which is when the calendar ends, is at 11 a.m.
So yeah, this is some crazy little clip too.
Where the universe is ringing
we'll
numbers
do a little deconstruction afterwards.
In accordance to consciousness and stuff. And you look at it in an astrological sense. With the precession of the equinoxes and the 26,000 year cycle of the Earth wobbling through the the 12 signs of the zodiac, we're said to be moving into the new age of Aquarius. And Aquarius is the 11th astrological sign. And so, getting further into it, you look at the numbers of 2112, 2012, and you add all those numbers up, and you get an 11.
Or the Order of the Silver Star for advanced magicians of the Great White Brotherhood.
One of those catacombs, kids!
A place from where the gods may
let me out so I can see the light.
Boy, we got some more information on that, but that's not the time tonight.
I got it.
Unbeknownst to many ordinary citizens and taxpayers who have supported the space program, selection of the landing sites of many of the manned and unmanned missions was manipulated and directed by an Egyptian named Farouk El-Baz. Many other aspects of the flight plans directed by El-Baz, such as launches from the moon, were also executed in accordance with this ancient Egyptian Masonic celestial
So this is interesting because he's going to school you on who kind of helped form NASA. It's also the guy who, he had ties with Alex Foley, who's the inventor of the Satanic Bible. And he was also the guy who helped NASA. That same gentleman was also a Nazi. So they're just,
of ancient and natural knowledge, as derived by our free Masonic forefathers, quote, who brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. I want to really stress that. I am not against, quote, secret societies. I'm against the secret societies. Societies themselves have performed incredibly important roles in preserving this information for now the time when all must employ it for our very future and destiny on planet Earth. The problem is, apparently, some men are created a little more equal than others. Today we call these ancient systems the occult, which is rich in information for the chosen few, while we, yes,
you have a Christian
unchosen many are given a perspective. Remember, we're still telling 30 years after they were born.
But we go straight low.
This knowledge, of course, truly is power. If it is not just
knowledge,
if this
power.
Is significant because it is the language of the physics behind it,
there's other guys
the
that they look like,
hyperdimensional codes
this don't make no sense to everybody.
Processes we have now discerned all over the solar system, and will describe in loving detail
all the stars and the celestial skies.
Then everyone has to take part and participate. By any other
participation
is
Alertmouth.com to go to debate show. All those little imperfections worked out definitely by next week.
Number 12. Cultures who have preserved this knowledge and have made it accessible to its populace unfortunately seem to fall victim to a very peculiar pattern.
It's peculiar, my friend.
It's called genocide.
Yes.
Witness the Jews at the hands of Hitler.
Straight
Kenan's work on the Hebrew alphabet. If that's an encoding of this physics, it gives a whole
jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
Say no, friends. We'll see you next weekend.
Because of the crisis which is even now developing, this radio station will remain on the air day and night. This station and hundreds of other radio and TV stations throughout this part of the country are pooling their resources through any emergency.
I want to get my ham radio license because when it all goes to hell, the only way I'm going to be able to broadcast to the people is through ham radio. You got to be certified. I'm going to get that license. But you've been seeing it everywhere. Now they even got it on that Velveeta where I got the golden. They also took the golden liquid gold meme. They got the ham radio thing. So I'm gonna end it with this funny thing I found on the internet. See, because now they got ham radio everywhere. It's kind of crazy. It's funny. It's like one of these fake little animated things.
You know, I've been borrowing money from my mom, my sister,
I was better
and my
I'm gonna get up to y'all. Tell us about it, people, man. Wasn't bad, though. Give him a little more value. EarlyMorningMob.com. Franklin, tell him EarlyMorningMob.com.
EarlyMorningMob.com. Check it out.
Yeah, baby.
Golden Show Network, so that in the catalog was on sale. Now, I have a picture big enough to drive my
So, instead of depositing your check in the bank so we can cover those hot checks we had to write for the car payment, our mortgage, and the two jobs and jobs. Let's vote for jobs!
But now I can finally get my 6 meters and I can check into the Alpha Marinette on 160 meters. After I make a couple laps in the
Tenants, the Homeowners Association has already sent us a notice about the tenancy at our snug.
Do it, baby! Go! Oh, that'll show us the Chicago.
He won't work on 160 meters.